buy like bigger bottles than this, like the regular like Coke bottle size, in a case at Sam's, and they were, I don't know, less than $1 a piece. And I used to buy them by a case all the time. And when all those shortages and stuff happened, they was always out, and they just never came back. And when they did, they came with a smaller bottle, and they don't have them, like, they're not as cheap anymore. So I still buy them on occasion, but I do. I meant to text you yesterday. This segment 3. I have no idea.
Okay, same.
I was like, I missed something.
Well, we're gonna roll with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll bounce around like 8-10.
I'm not wearing a hat today because I got that Mac lunch. The head spills weird.
Yeah, because we're rolling out at 8:30, so I have to be back to Lone Star in a few minutes before so I can.
Why 8:30?
I don't know. Just like a
Good morning and welcome to the Hodge Pack, Sports Life and everything in between. Brought to you by Lytle Landing Cattle. We are going to be hanging out here in the Potosi Live studio, and our guest up here on our pest control phone line. We got a lot to cover today. It's literally this week. It's been radio station weather. Anytime it gets over 10 anything, 7, this feels like a radio station weather, and it's been pretty toasty. And so, but you got Hodge, you got Josh, and you got Misty here. We got the bag, Misty's bag. Knowing's half the battle. We'll be doing knowing half the battle a little bit early today, just because we normally do that. Well, we can still maybe do it in the 8 o'clock hour. Maybe Misty will need to know something, Josh.
I don't know. Probably not.
I think she knows
He
it all.
basically just said, I know everything.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and as the crickets start chirping, and I'm sure Clay is agreeing. But we do. We have a lot to cover. I'm excited. We got a new spot that's going to play during the breaks. See if you catch it. If you could text me. Tell you what, if you catch the new spot, text me 325-660-0406. If you catch the new spot, the new commercial spot that we shot yesterday, I'll give you a hat. So if you'll text me 325-660-0406, listen for the commercials, listen for them. If you hear the new spot and text me which one had a new spot, we will give you a hat. So you'll be the first one to text me 325-660-0406. Lots to cover today. Josh, we're coming out of the baseball spring break, if you will, and Rangers, and we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the Rangers in the 8 o'clock hour a little bit later, and just all the baseball stuff. But summer's rocking and rolling, and so Misty, you got a lot of vacation built. Got another day. I guess really, are you doing a weekend thing? You doing
Just a weekend thing. Yeah. Just headed for day, and we'll be back on Monday. So.
Oh, there you go.
It's a long way to drive.
It is a long way to drive for a weekend. Y'all, I don't know. You two bankers, y'all, nothing's a random Monday holiday, is it? Y'all are working on Monday.
No, yeah, I'm taking Monday and Tuesday off, so I won't go back to work till Wednesday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so 3 nights there, and then leave sometime on Monday to head back.
There you go. All right, well, good stuff. Josh, what are you doing?
Nothing. We're just having a guys' weekend. It's just me and Luke and Barrett.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are the girls doing?
Something else. Not hanging out with me.
they got kicked out of their own house. So good. I've got military affairs luncheon today. Got a buddy from our church coming in to play golf. And I don't know what we'll do tomorrow, but we're coming to the end, and I know Collins is in the room, but we're getting really close to something starting with coaching school. All the local coaches, they're heading to coaching school either Saturday or Sunday down to Houston for coaching school, which means 2-a-days and all those things are about to start. Josh, you've got a kind of a big day or big time for your boys with kindergarten coming. And so it's just summer flies by. They always say the older you get, the more it flies. I'm starting to believe that just a little bit. And so, and one of the things that flies by is 2 hours. And so we've got a ton to talk about. Again, we'll have Misty's bag, and we've got a segment that I've got to explain to people, and maybe to you as well, because Josh and them are a little confused. I'm hoping my Bring Back song is going to help it a little bit, but we shall see. But we want to dive into really, so when I send you the rundown, just real quick.
I'm scratching my head a lot of the time.
But
most of the time it's your sentence phrasing.
Right? Or I think I might know, and then it's totally different. I'm like, oh, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's your Hodge's little internal thought bubble put into Hodgeonics on a page.
Yeah, the fact that sometimes I hit send and type out and then go ahead and don't make changes sometimes is comical.
I just love that it doesn't bother you and you don't correct it moving forward. Like,
well, no, I mean, what is here does make sense to me.
I know guarantees don't mean much.
yeah.
I mean, that's a sentence. Like,
Yeah. He's like, oh, God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, oops, yeah. I was literally looking at the
I'll
same
explain
thing.
that later. We'll explain that at the bottom of the hour. But want to dive into our Lawrence Hall headline report again. There's a lot to talk about. It's been a really odd last week and a half or two for coaches across college sports, across really everything. Popovich, at the age that he is, has signed a new deal, 5-year deal, $80 million with the Spurs. But over the last couple of weeks, we saw Bob Huggins say, I didn't resign formally. Now he's trying to say, my wife sent an email that wasn't me, and I didn't resign formally in writing or anything like that, so I should still be the West Virginia coach. And then it's been a bad day for the folks around Northwestern. Pat Fitzgerald was fired after allegations of hazing going on in the program. He was sent on a 2-week administrative leave, and then he got fired officially for knowing being the head coach, the CEO of the organization, and not knowing these things were going on. Should have been knowing they were going on. And guys, he's been there 26 years, either as a player or a coach, and got fired. And then following that, yesterday, Jim Foster, the head baseball coach for Northwestern, was fired because of bullying. And to me, where do you fall on this? Yes, the head coach, the CEO, should know what's going on in their organization. But we see it a lot of times where, whether it's Rick Pitino or here in this Fitzgerald situation, where they say they don't know. Is that possible?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, if you're a college football coach, that you have a plethora of paid assistants, and then the graduate assistants, and all the volunteer coaches and just people around the program, and then 75 to 100 players, and that's a lot of people trying to know what's going on all the time. Now, I don't know what happened or where it happened and all of that, but if you're going to say that you got to be aware of what 100 college kids are doing all the time, and you're responsible for that, I could see how stuff could go on that you wouldn't know about. Now, if it's very organized and it's happening out in the open, and then it'd be harder to say you didn't know. But I mean, I don't know how it transpired. So, I could give him the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, that kind of goes with any job. That sometimes if your responsibility is the finished product, and that part of that product is not right, even if you weren't directly involved, it still affects you.
Right. Well, I just think it's going to be interesting on how other programs. It's one of those deals. You may not. Every program in the country, because we've seen it now happen in the baseball program, we've seen it happen in the football program. If you're a head coach right now at your school, you've got to evaluate, in my opinion, how are we doing these things when we bring recruits in. We've just seen that the Georgia thing. Jalen Carter, who was involved in that speeding incident, now they've got one of the staffers filing a lawsuit against Georgia and Jalen Carter, saying that they were negligent on that situation. So if you're an organization right now in a program, you need to be looking, okay, how do we make sure this doesn't happen here? Because the other part of that, normally that somebody's over all that is operations, director of operations, knowing what's going on, compliance, and all those things, is making sure that you're checking your boxes on making sure all that stuff is covered. What's happening with this recruit this weekend? What are we doing here? Where are you taking him? How are we doing these things? Yes, we want to make him have a great time, but we got to do stuff. We can't do stuff that's going to bite us in the booty on the way out, and we not only not get the recruit, but now we have allegations against us. And then when you start doing these things in the locker room and all those things, how do you avoid the hazing situation? Just because it is a big deal, because we've seen stuff like this happen. So anyway, let's talk about better things that are happening. Like the Scottish Open is happening across the pond. A lot of the guys that are getting ready for the British Open, that's how they get ready. They play the Scottish Open right now. Tom Kim is leading at 10 under, Tyrell Hatton at 9 under, and Scotty Scheffler at 7 under par. Thought this was interesting. We cannot not bring this up because of you, Misty. But the Jets have decided, or the Hard Knocks have selected the Jets to be the Hard Knocks team for this year.
Misty's already got her DVR set.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So I think it's interesting. I wish they had made this decision and found a way to get into the dark retreat for Aaron Rodgers.
No kidding. Like, now you want to do it
yeah.
because Aaron Rodgers is
So,
with the Jets?
do you pay attention? And you mentioned that you and Collins, have you watched any of the quarterback thing on Netflix yet, Josh?
No, I'm not.
So do you pay attention to any of these Hard Knocks? A lot of them think there's a Madden curse, if you will, being on the cover. If you're on Hard Knocks, it's not going to go well for you. Really, probably the best team that's moved on from that and gotten better since are the Lions. Will you or have you ever paid attention to these Hard Knocks series?
So I like to watch, I just like the behind the scenes of almost anything, but especially sports, especially the NFL. So whenever I saw that the quarterback series was coming, I was super jazzed. And so started watching it last night, got through 4 episodes, loving it. I love all the behind the scenes
You watched
stuff.
4 episodes one night?
They're not
yes,
very long.
I did.
They're not very long, but it's pretty interesting the 3 that they selected.
Yes.
You've got Patrick Mahomes, which is the top.
Tippy top.
You've got Kirk Cousins, who's that middle guy that everybody says, are you better than Kirk Cousins? Are you worse than Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
And then you got Marcus Mariota, who's been the bounced around Heisman Trophy winner that's never really set in. Now, he's made plenty of money, but never really set in as a stud. But the Hard Knock stuff, to me, is interesting. It's the behind the scenes of, hey, we bring the guy into the coach's office. Hey, we're going to have to let you go. But I think they were doing this really before The Last Dance. I mean, Hard Knocks has been around a while.
Well, it has been. And I have never watched a minute of it. Well, maybe a minute in some clip I saw on some other show.
You didn't catch any when the Cowboys were in it?
Not a bit.
I just love, I don't know.
It being on HBO Max probably helps deter some folks because maybe they don't have that avenue or they don't have that platform to watch TV
but
on.
you've seen Nolan Ryan's. No?
No.
His series?
That's actually one that I have thought, I want to watch
Oh my
that.
gosh,
And I've
too.
never watched The Last Dance.
That surprises me as such a big
It doesn't
sports
surprise
fan.
me that you didn't watch Last Dance.
Well,
It
no.
blows my mind you've not watched the
Right,
Nolan
me
Ryan
too.
documentary.
Just the behind the scenes, you're gonna love it. It's
Well,
executed.
That's your draft day assignment.
Yes.
Here's the thing.
You and your boy sit down this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't have time to watch a whole lot of TV, and usually I reserve that, especially during baseball season, for just watching baseball. And I don't know. I really do not watch. I used to watch TV sometimes in the mornings, like I turn the TV on, But then as the boys got older and they started getting up and watching what they want to watch on TV, I don't do it. So I don't have a lot of time to do that. It's not something that I just don't watch a lot of TV.
But
So
it'll be
like I was
something you
saying,
and the
man, I
boys
really
can
want to watch this, and that is a possibility. But that, like I said, when are we going to watch it?
Yeah.
The Rangers play at 7:00 tonight. We're not going to turn on a documentary.
Tomorrow morning.
Right.
It's now become
No,
a
but
Saturday morning cartoon.
Well, but Saturday morning's outside time. You got to go outside and do stuff.
Yeah,
So
because it is 106.
well, it's not supposed to be. We'll see. But the forecast I looked at shows tomorrow and Sunday to be in the 90s. So it'll be like party time.
Love it.
Set your tea time for tomorrow. All right. Hey, when we come back, we're going to start looking at College football is right around the corner. We mentioned earlier that high school football and all those things are around the corner. So is college football. And the Big 12 Media Day was this past week. We'll look at that. We'll kind of talk about should we and how exciting are we going to have. We got new people. We got people leaving. We'll be back right after this.
So Hodge wants to shoot the promo for. So when do you want to do that? When do you want to do that?
Do you think there's enough sunlight?
How much time do we have?
Enough sunlight.
Or,
Yeah, maybe we can try.
Right now?
Well, Joshua wants to eat his burrito.
I'll
You want to wait? Do you want to try
I
it
don't
right
care.
now?
I don't even know right now. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. What are we
We don't
doing?
know. What are we saying?
So all I did last week, I did one by myself. I sent it to him, but he thought it'd still be good to have one with all three of us. All I said was, "Hey, this is Hodge from the Hodge Pack," and honestly, we could probably do it similar to that. I was like, "Hey, it's Hodge." I'll probably say, "Hey, it's Hodge, Misty, and Josh from the Hodge Pack, 106.3." No, this is Hodge, Misty, and Josh from the Hodge Pack, Sports Life, and everything in between. I want to encourage you to check out our Hodge Pack YouTube channel, Hodge Pack Sports. Check out our YouTube channel. It's a lot of fun. And then you can just, when I pause, you can say something. Yeah, come check out. I've got our Missed Back segment. Josh can say knowing at the bat, or Josh can talk Texas Rangers, whatever. And then I'll just wrap it up and say, yeah, be sure to check it out. Go to YouTube.
Okay.
I think we need a little bit better script.
Check out Mr. Credit.
I'm
I
a
do
good
a
winger
little-
is the problem.
And I do a little.
Oh, man, it's one of the
Wait, what did you just say?
I'm a good winger.
Oh my gosh, I heard wiener, and I was like, "Did you hear
Yeah.
wiener?"
I'm like,
I was like, I did not. It's a quote from a movie. It's perfect.
Molly's grandma came to pick her up this morning. She's going to
Oh,
spend the weekend with
fun.
grandma and grandpa.
See the voice of my
Earlier, he was doing like some sort
He
of
said-
body move. Right.
We just look at each other and start laughing.
Welcome back to the Hodge Pack Sports Life and everything in between. The boys are back in town as the Big 12 Media Day kicked off this past week. Shout out to my niece Lily, who she was on a field trip and then found out that she was actually getting to go to AT&T Stadium. And when they got there, the Big 12 Media Days were there, and so when you start having these media days and you start having the coaches talk and they bring in the players and they start doing these things, it gets you excited that football is coming. And I know Josh loves baseball, and again, welcome back to the Hodge Pack, sports life and everything in between. And baseball's fun and all those things, but football brings so much more. Not more, but seasons change and school starting and I ran into Connor for the first time ever at the pool the other day, and he goes, "Man, it's been a bit." I said, "Well, the Cowboys will be here before we know it. We'll start watching Cowboys games together." But the boys are back in town, and it's a fitting story and a fitting song with the Big 12 is we got two teams that are back in town for one more year, and then we've got coming in to kick them out, I guess you would say, and give us a new look. But Josh, I think this year's Big 12 season, and they asked a couple of things that came out of this that I got out of watching Big 12 Media Day, and shout out to the coverage of it, Chris Budden and all those that did it, is there's storylines in this thing like you would have in an NFL season. You've got the Texas and OU situation. You've got the 4 new ones coming. And with this past week, Coach Coach Gundy at Oklahoma State, they asked him about Oklahoma, and he said, it's probably history. Bedlam's history. And they're always trying to make us want to change things. He's like, they're the ones that left. It's kind of like A&M. Now it's Texas in that situation. They're the ones that have left the Big 12 conference. It's not us. We're not going to change. And what's so crazy about college football is people have games planned for 26 and 27. And he said, I think we've got game contracts set for 15 years.
Yeah, so, plus OU's going to the SEC. You're not allowed to play a tough team on the road during the season. So,
if you're an SEC.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two tough games at the first of the year for the entire conference, and it's cupcakes the rest of the way. But we're the best conference, so just keep that in mind.
Right.
But only play cupcakes.
Right. And then
Cupcake conference for the win.
Bring in Florida A&I Technical School for week 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in that, you start looking at the and I think somebody else said something. I think it might have been the Big 12 commission. Something about, leaving. Do you think it's hurting recruiting? Do you think Texas and OU is going to hurt recruiting for the conference? And they were like, well, they haven't played in our conference championship in a while. I think we're fine.
We're good.
But in all that, according to preseason poll, things are going back to the old way. With Texas be the preseason number 1. And so as you look at these, how do you look at what we should look at the Big 12? I look at it similar to when the Astros were coming back off of the trash can gate, if you will, and attendance started being able to be back full in stadiums, that when Astros came to town and Altuve and all those things were getting booed. What do you see this Big 12 season looking like? And for people like you, Josh, that are Baylor people that are wondering, where are we going from here? How do you see this Big 12 season going?
Well, first of all, I absolutely love it that Texas is picked to win the conference and in the top 10 in the country, because that just allows me to laugh harder when they fall.
Same.
This whole Texas is back thing, I've heard this same old song and dance. I'll believe it when I see it. Not saying that they can't put it together and be good, but that whole thing that Texas always ends up getting ranked and then always just like loses games. And in fact, it props up other people's seasons because they beat Texas and suddenly like, oh, we beat Texas. And then like at the end of the year, Texas barely even makes a bowl game. And so, but that other team got propelled into the top 25 because they beat them. So we'll see how that goes. But, really, I think for the most part, this has been like a very slow developing train wreck, so it's like by the time it actually, leaves the tracks, I don't know that people really are going to care all that much. I mean, Yeah, there's going to be some animosity. There's going to
care that Texas and OU leave.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be some animosity. They'll get some boos. You know, you're talking about the Astros. You know, Dusty Baker got booed when he was introduced as the manager of the All-Star team. You know, in Seattle the other day, and I kind of chuckled at that. But
and he's like, it wasn't even my fault. It was Inch's fault. It was Inch's fault.
He wasn't even there. The conference has done a good job of bringing in other teams and being a full conference again, which I think is important. And even though they're not blue bloods that came in, they are relevant programs. So, you know, the footing of the conference appears to be better than I would have imagined it would have right when we first heard that Texas and OU were leaving, because there was talks of other teams leaving also, which would have put some of those other schools in a tough place, and that's not just Baylor, but Baylor obviously was one of them. But Tech and Kansas State, Oklahoma State, those teams that don't have quite the national following and don't sell the amount of merch that OU and Texas do. So there was a time where it's like, well, if these teams start splitting off, like if Oklahoma State goes over here, Tech goes over here, where's Baylor going to go, or vice versa? There was a time frame where I was worried that the whole, I guess, fabric of what college football has been around here, with Tech and Baylor and Texas always has been a part of it. A&M used to be, and we got over that, so it's like there was a time that I was worried about it. I'm not worried about it, but I do miss the geographical rivals,
which to me, I think is going to be interesting with now you're adding Houston in as a staple. And was, again, listening to Joe McGuire's, and I'll get to him in a moment, how they were asking, the additions and the people coming in. And he talked about how Houston, from a TV market, from a market in general, you're now adding them. And they've been known for a while, back in the day, all the way from Andre Ware to Klinger.
Yeah,
they've had some good teams. Well, then now you start throwing in, and we'll get to another part of that in a minute. He said it's going to add some excitement because now you have another in-state rivalry that comes with it.
Right, and it's big. It's very big to be able to go to recruit a player, say a guy from the Houston area, and say, you can come play for us at Texas Tech, at Baylor, at Iowa State, for that matter, and you'll get to have one game at least. Like every other year, your mom's going to be able to be right there in the front row. It's just so you have that game in your hometown that does have some recruiting boost to it. And then the TV market, obviously, if I guess that's the fourth biggest market in the country. So that's got to be a big part of why you'd want that team there, which was also why like A&M traditionally didn't want Houston to be a part of it, because it was kind of invading into some of their territory.
Well, what's your thoughts on just rivalries changing? We see that when schools, like in high schools, we see it because one school grows outrageously bigger, like in Abilene Wiley or Jim Ned and Winters, who used to be a big rival, and now that starts to change, and there's not any relevancy to that to a lot of people that are a certain age, as opposed to those that like Josh and I remember the Merkel Wiley rivalry. Does that bother you, or see that starting to change?
I mean, I don't know that it bothers me, because you're just going to find a new rival, right? Like, you're going to start a new tradition. So, yes, I love old rivals. I mean, that's Robert Lee and Braun. That's how I grew up. That was our rival. But new rivals will be formed moving forward. I have a lot of thoughts on, like you put, we're talking about pressure, of who has the most pressure this year. Obviously, OU completely was a dumpster fire last year, so they're going to be looking to bounce back their last year.
Which one?
OU.
Which I think is interesting as you look at this. UT's number 1, K-State number 2 makes sense, but OU number 3 kind of shocks me as the preseason favorite.
I don't agree with that ranking of OU at all. Like I said, they completely sucked last year and definitely need to bounce back in this last year. And then I don't like OU, obviously, but then, that may catapult them somewhat to the Cupcake Conference, best conference in college football.
I do think it's going to be interesting when they all get in there. And I think Texas has some stuff to prove. I think Sarkisian has something to prove.
Oh, they definitely have stuff
and
to
I
prove.
think Ewers, and you've got Manning knowing he's in the same room.
But winning this as the last year in the Big 12 for Texas, it's like, babe, you're moving on to bigger and better things now. So yes, you want to have that number one spot, you want to win that. But I'm like, that, in my opinion, it's like, okay, that's not going to do much for you.
Oh, but see, I think it's the best way to stick it to the man.
Well, it is.
I think
but
if either one of those teams can win this conference, even though they are moving on to maybe the better conference, if you can stick it to them, especially if you're going to go into every stadium on the road being the hated team more so than you normally are anyway, I think that comes with it. But see, I think the Big 12, it seems like you mentioned Oklahoma State not being the powerhouse, but it seems like every year somebody in the Big 12 becomes that come out of nowhere. It was Baylor, and then they didn't get into the playoff, and they were tied with TCU. Then it was Iowa State that had this good run, and then Oklahoma State has done that. Last year it was TCU. I think this year, and I guess I'm excited because of who's coaching there and how he's brought this high school mentality. But I think Texas Tech has a chance. They've got a lot of guys coming back. There is some excitement. They could be the TCU, the excitement team in the Big 12. And
they got a lot of helium. I mean,
when's the last time they've been up as the fourth ranked team in this
exciting
conference?
as a Tech fan,
So my
for sure.
question to you, and we've got a little bit of time before we're going to open up Misty's back here in a moment. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to do that still at the same time. Who do you think has the most pressure in this coming Big 12 season?
I really don't know. I mean, I think OU probably because what Misty mentioned, they were so bad last year. I think that they don't need to limp into going to the SEC because even though I do make fun of the SEC's non-conference schedule, it definitely has a lot of tough conference games. So I don't think they want to limp into that, and because I just don't think it'd be good for the psyche of their program. So I think there's probably the most pressure there to be able to rebound from like a bad season with a new coach where they lost a lot of talented players, and so that pipeline has to fill back up.
Well, that OU gap, he got a break because of who went with Lincoln.
Right.
This year is almost like you were in charge, you were the CEO. This is it.
You need to bring it back to the old OU.
Like I was talking about rivals or the other minute, not the other day. It was here this morning.
Just now.
But I don't know that you ever really do, because this came up in a conversation I had recently about like the high schools constantly redistricting and how you have a football district and a basketball district, and they're not the same teams necessarily. And I think a lot of those rivalries are gone. I don't think that people have those same type of rivalries that we had when we were kids, because you were playing the same schools that like your dad was playing against and things like that.
And
you don't have that anymore in high school sports. I don't see that. You get some new ones that you kind of have a few years of bad blood, but then you go, well, now where's this one? And so I think that's kind of gone. And I think all this conference realignment is doing that same thing to college football. That you just don't like. Texas and Texas A&M were obviously a huge rival, and then they haven't played in years. So it's like, why are they like
OU and Nebraska?
Right, and that used to be
away,
one. Now
it's gone. All right, real quick, who do you think has the most pressure?
So obviously, I think OU on the winning front, but I think these new teams coming in have something to prove. They're coming up to a bigger conference, so we're about to see what these teams are really made of.
I think Holgorsen at U of H has a lot of pressure because now you are in the big leagues. You've gone from West Virginia to Houston. I think Houston has the biggest pressure.
Right, because you don't have that excuse anymore of being a mid-major.
We're a Power 5 conference.
Yep.
When we come back, I'm going to explain myself as the best I can right after this.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I read that. I was reading through this.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Good job, Colin.
Perfect drop too.
Well, and then do you just like us, like we're just like smiling?
Now, I don't know. I'm trying to picture how to make this work.
It is a little awkward. Okay, we're back.
Welcome back to the Hodge Pack, Sports Life and everything in between, right here on 106.9, the Country Giant. We're glad that you're with us. A lot of stuff going on. You hear George Jones saying, "I don't need your rocking chair." And now I get to explain myself. So
Please do.
So we have a rundown that I send out and give ideas of what the show is going to be about. And so, man, George Jones, I'd have liked to see George Jones in concert. Was supposed to one time, but he was no-show Jones. I didn't get to. That's another story for another day.
That really tickled John. I'm sorry. I'm so glad you didn't take a drink of that.
I would have spit it.
You don't know that he was known as no-show.
I knew that completely. I was just like,
He just got
I'm
so
old enough.
tickled.
I feel proud that I'm old enough to.
You make this like random comment, and I was sitting there, and when you did this, he makes this like
Some
face,
face.
like I don't know.
My face
And then
doesn't
it made me laugh.
And then he almost did. It was like a high pitch.
You almost stumbled Chico.
It was very high pitch.
You were a high pitch. Here you go. So, again, reading stuff during the week, I saw this article talking about how literally the running back has become devalued, in that the life expectancy of a career expectancy of a running back is starting to go away. That's why we said pick Bijan Robinson, pay him, let him play 4 years, and move on. And so when I wrote this, which part do you want to start?
Please do tell.
So the thoughts on having a running back rule. What they were talking about, the article I was reading was Kareem Hunt is 28 years old. Or no, Kareem Hunt, Zeke, and Dalvin Cook are all 27 years old, with Leonard Fournette being 28. And talking about how those guys are not on a team, and how Myles Garrett, Deebo Samuel, and Budda Baker at 27 years old, there's no way you're getting rid of them. You're signing them, you're extending them, you're finding ways to get them into the game, work your game plan around. And when I said a running back rule, it's almost like you ought to have at least one guy that you're still giving a chance to. And I know it's not guaranteed, don't mean much, but I think this running back. Oh, good. No, I can't even read my own top book. So stay with me. Stay with me.
How the heck are we supposed to?
So here's my thing. I still
I
think
was like, I don't have time for this.
I still think that all four of those guys, Kareem Hunt, Zeke Elliott, Dalvin Cook, and Leonard Fournette, have value and can still bring something to the table. The hard part about it is finding them enough dollars, if you will, to pay them and understand that you are worth this. It kind of got me. Are you anywhere on the track with me yet?
I'm following, yes.
But that these guys still have value. And if there was
But
a
do they?
They
If they
do,
did,
but
they'd
how
be
much?
signed.
Well, how
the-
much in
the
a
pro-
pass first league now?
I don't.
It has to come down. The value
I
of running
disagree
backs.
with that. I disagree with that. You've got to be able to run the football.
We are a pass first league, which is why we're seeing this. My opinion is these running backs, they're going to have to come back down to earth and realize, okay, you're not worth as much as you were when it was when we were running the ball more. That's my opinion on it. I just think they're being.
I don't think the running back's the fullback right now.
No,
but it's
all-
changed. The
all
game
of
has
the-
changed.
all of the economics of the game, and obviously in baseball, the whole money ball principle, was really big, and that changed how the game was played, because it, made the on base percentage a stat that people cared about, when before it was just batting average and that was it. And you move this over into football, you're always trying to get the maximum amount of what you can do within the salary cap. And even if there wasn't a salary cap, you've got to make sure your investment pays dividends. If you can get any two, fourth round talent running backs and put them on your team and mix and match those matchups, with those guys and pay them the league minimum. Why would somebody a big free agent contract? And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, no one's saying Zeke is so burnt he's not worth being on a football team.
And
they're
I'm not saying that.
They're saying he wants so much money he won't go sign for what somebody would pay him because the market has decided it's not worth it. So I mean, there's nothing you can do to fix that other than the running backs have to realize they're not going to get paid like Emmitt Smith did,
Unless they can catch a football.
Well, right. I mean,
Also,
be part of that running game or part of that passing game. But I think that it's it's really just the way the game has evolved. Teams have decided that the market does not bear out spending your capital on a running back, which is a huge problem that the Cowboys ran into when they signed Zeke to a big contract extension because he was holding out and wouldn't show up if he didn't get paid. And then what that turned into was you have less resources for other things because you put it into a running. That Tony Pollard just came right off the bench and just was better.
And I'm not saying that there's not some better and all that, but I do think from a Cowboys perspective, I think that I would figure out a way to still have one of these guys on. We saw what he did when Leonard Fournette went to the.
But I'm sure they'd gladly take him.
It comes back to the money. Yeah, I mean, absolutely comes back to the money that they're wanting. They're just not as valuable as they used to be unless they can touch a football.
Right, and that's really what like you talk about a running back rule, like the equivalency of like the Rooney rule, where you have to interview a minority candidate for the job, as to try to increase that. When you say you gotta have a running back that's over 28 on your roster, I mean, like there's no way you can make a rule for that because it's really a matter of all four of those guys that you have listed there that are not on a team. I believe do still have value and would be somebody that could make a team better. It's just a matter of will they sign for what the team thinks that's worth.
Settle in their minds.
Now, if I'm looking at this correct, Zeke is in year 6. He started so he'd be year 7, drafted in 2016. So he would be year 7 would be a 1.1, about $1.2 million. In that, my point is so I think you should get that. What it reminds me of is artists. And I'm not going to mention any artist because I don't want them to get offended because I know they listen.
All artists.
Yes. But you know as well as I do, there are artists back in the 90s that could demand X for to play a show.
Right.
We run into this with cattle bears.
Absolutely.
Those folks do this. So there are people that when they were in 1994, 96, and they were jamming out, and you can listen to and hear that great music right here on our station, they were worth X. The frustrating part is that, and this is where I'm agreeing with you, is that when that act still thinks they need to get that money in 2023, that's the problem. But if that act will realize, you know what, I had a great run making that, but I'm still pretty good, because here's the deal. There's a reason people like Caliber. There's a reason people go and listen to those 90s guys and girls because that music was great, is that they'll pay that, but they're not going to pay $180 to see them. They're just not going to do that. And so that's what these running backs kind of remind me of. And then in the same realm, you may see a guy like Cody Jinks at Outlaws and Legends when he's just starting, or Cody Johnson and he's just starting, and you're fortunate enough to see this great artist, and the next thing you know, he's the one selling out AT&T. But I'm curious to see how long it takes for any of those running backs to find a place in work, because Adrian Peterson played forever, it seemed like. Frank Gore played forever, it seemed like.
There have been a lot of running backs that had long careers, and I don't think that these guys are necessarily. I do not think that Zeke is spent. I do not think he's worthless. But
I don't think any of those guys on that list.
No, I don't think so. It's just not worth what he's asking for, or and this is one of those problems that I've always thought you're negotiating against yourself when you do this, but the Players Association in all the sports makes these minimums. If you have this much time to service, your pay has to be X. All that does to me is make sure that a borderline veteran will lose their job to a free agent rookie walk on, or camp invitee, because you can pay that guy $650,000 and you got to pay this guy $1.5 million. And really, so they've made that as a win. Like, our veterans will get paid more. You build up service time, you get paid.
But nobody's
more.
guaranteed to have to pay you that.
You just get cut because of it. And so if you could truly negotiate what you were worth, and you might decide, I'm not going to play if that's what you're going to pay, and that's fine. You don't have to. But
yeah, go back to confidence, I guess.
But so if you're talking about the minimum salary allowed to sign Zeke Elliott for this year's what million?
1.2.
Okay, so and so that's twice as much as a late draft pick / rookie free agent, twice as much. So really, if you're comparing that, what we need a running back to be a 1-2 tandem with whoever else. We can pay this guy this much, or this guy half that. Is he twice as good? And even if he is twice as good, does that not cut what you can pay somebody else over here because you're dipping into that salary cap? So I get it completely. It's all economics, and it's not that I don't think they're washed up. They're just not what they once were, and it's
a hard
bounces off.
It's a hard play. It's hard to find a place for these guys, but I think we're going to see, and maybe we may start that. We're going to start the Zeke pool. We'll have a chart up here with a calendar at when do you think Zeke will sign with a team?
And what amount of money?
Well, if you're looking at those four guys, who would you sign first? I mean, Dalvin Cook would be the one that I feel like has the most left in the tank from just like what I've seen. But I mean, I'm not a scout. But those guys might be playing this game of like we stay in shape, except for Zeke, he's probably not. And then we're like getting ready for the season, like we're gonna have a team, and wait till training camp. Someone's gonna tear an ACL. Someone's gonna show up and have lost a step or two, and they're gonna feel like they need to do something else. And that's when those free agents will start finding teams.
And where you find that out, and we got to go to commercial because I want to open up Misty's bag and get to know him out the battle before Misty goes to put her toes in the sand, is that when you start these training camps, which are right around the corner, and you start some of these preseason games, and you start realizing the guy that we drafted, not just the Cowboys, but just the guys that we drafted in round 6, 7 that weren't good, okay, now let's add somebody. I think that's what you may see.
I think it'll happen. It's just, going to be late.
And I think, and that's the other part of the poll. Will the Cowboys end up bringing Zeke back? We'll be back with Misty's bag right after this.
Okay, do you want a video again if we just stand there like Nana? Playlist? She says we like playlist. What do? We just, we just stand there and I know. I'm like, I need to see that to approve it, sir.
That's approved.
Negative. It's already going to be said.
Approved.
You just need to put this in front of Hodge.
UT's overrated. Tech because they have one of a few games. Yeah, Dr. Duke, I don't get you texting like me, brother. No offense, that ain't a compliment. Welcome back to the Hodge Pack, Sports Live and everything in between. We're rolling along hour number 1 on this great July day. And now it is time for
Okay, I don't want y'all to get in trouble with this, so I'm going to preface it with saying that
Literally ran away.
he is scared of my bag.
It was a very awkward run too.
It was. Well, speaking of my bag, I am, Misty's Mulligan's bag. So, have you been to Mulligan's lately?
I have.
It's been going great.
I
They've
didn't
had
want to
all
go
the
there today,
things.
actually.
Yes, I was there a couple months ago. They do sponsor Misty's bag, and we're so thankful to have them on board. And so, get on out to Mulligan's Sports Bar and Grill for all the fun, all the things.
And eat some steak fingers. They're very
Oh my gosh, they're so good. Yeah, you cannot go wrong. They have a great menu. Okay. Are y'all ready for this?
Hodge is very ready.
I mean, he literally ran away with the scream.
His head is swelling.
that doesn't take much.
Okay. If grounding your spouse
Ooh.
was a thing, what are you grounding your spouse for?
For or from?
For.
This is one of those times you need to make sure Leanne doesn't listen to the show, so I can say whatever I want.
I mean,
She claims that the radio in her office doesn't pick up this channel. I think it's a lie.
she hates us.
If she has internet, KLG1069.com, she can listen.
I'm not sure that she knows how to operate that.
I mean, let's just call it what it is, marriage, okay? If you're
Okay.
married, your spouse sometimes annoys the crap out of you. We do it to our spouses, although we're almost perfect. We do. They do it to us. I've picked on y'all many, many times, and y'all have said things that you're not going to change.
Inappropriate things.
Yeah, I know.
I thought she was about to ask, what are you grounding me for?
Well, let me
So-
tell you, I got a lot of problems.
I mean, I'm just saying. So today we're going to pick on our spouses a little bit within
Okay.
good fun, but there are just little petty things that our spouses do that annoy the crap out of us. And so what are we going to ground them for? I know it's tough. It's a list.
Well, yeah. I will tell you one thing that I really do get frustrated about, and I understand it, but it frustrates me. And that's being told to take my boots off every time I come to the house. I don't have time. Sometimes
You don't even have time to watch TV, much
Yeah.
less take your
You
boots
just
off.
take your boots off. That's one thing. You got to put them back on. If you're just walking inside for a second, I don't want to take my boots off, but I'm told I have to take my boots off. So I would just nope, time out. I'm wearing my boots.
Grounded.
So I'm grounding you for making me do
Yeah,
that.
no, that you get a timeout for that. That's not a full-fledged grounding. You just get a timeout.
Oh, okay. So we need to know the full out grounding. So timeout.
I've got
I'll
so
let
many
Hodge
things
go
in my
next.
head I'm not saying in my head. I
You're
will
not-
say that maybe for the YouTube people in a moment. But
Yeah, I'll have to tell y'all what Ethan's response to this question was because he heard it wrong, but it was really funny.
I don't know what I would ground Tracy for.
It's hard. This is a hard question, I feel like. 'Cause
Yeah, it's exactly hard
There's
because
so many things.
no, that sounds bad. That there's not so many things because marriage
Oh,
is
it's
so.
so, it's
Oh,
so
it's
perfect.
so blissful.
Oh,
well, that's what she
Walls
is.
household.
No, I'm just saying you're saying
Josh and I are on the brink over here.
no, but I'm saying you're saying there's so many things that tick
Well,
you
just
off.
when I'm thinking like little stupid petty things, like okay, while you're thinking, this came up. This is why this question was born this week. This is my question to y'all. This was not a listener emailing mistysbag@yahoo.com. Which, by the way,
What Clay do?
plug it all day long. Send me your questions so I can stump these guys. Okay, Collins and Clay, whenever we eat dinner, and if we're not at the table, they use TV trays. Not a fan of the TV tray
I
myself.
hate TV.
Exactly. I hate them. I hate them.
I hate eating on the couch. I think that is disgusting.
I just, whatever. I'm not going to do a TV tray. So they use the TV tray. Well, in our house, we have a couch like on one side and then 2 recliners. After he uses the TV tray, there is a hall closet right there by our front door that the TV trays go. Right. Why not just put the little thing in the closet after you're done using it? But no, he leaves it by the couch, and it drives me crazy. So in his defense, I have not said anything. I just put the TV tray up myself.
Clay does listen.
I know. Oh, he already knows that this is coming. We've already chatted about this. But again, it's something so petty. It's just a stupid TV tray. It's not gonna, whatever. Like, it probably shouldn't bother me, but it does. So I'll just pick up the TV tray, put it in the closet. But I'm like, why can't you just put the TV tray up when you're done using it? Why does it stay out like all week long? Because he's gonna use
it the next time.
Right.
He's used to be my logic for not wanting to make my bed. I'm just gonna sleep in it tonight.
Right. I get the logic, but
I make the bed.
I do
make the bed.
I make the bed every morning except Fridays.
I make the bed. Yeah, we make our bed every morning.
You should just make the bed with her.
So this is why this question was born, because he's told me in the past, oh my gosh, this water bottle that you left out, he just puts my water bottle up. So now the TV tray is the new water bottle.
Breaking news on our YouTube channel feed. Clay says that is fake news. Fake news.
Fake news.
Yeah, he would say that.
Real quick, we're going to pause for station identification real quick. So fake news, breaking news, that is not true. That is not happened.
You laugh.
But I really can't think.
So he's grounded because this has been going on for months.
Now, I will say, I don't know if it'd be a grounding, but there's a lot of times I go to the mailbox, and it seems like there's a lot of repeat of little small packages of online shopping.
Clay would say that about me too, probably.
You don't say that about me. I purchase random things online.
Well, and we have a lot of closet space.
So you would ground her from shopping?
No.
But yes.
Yes, or a timeout. He doesn't like grounding. It sounds so
he's very mean. He's
scared of his wife and doesn't want to
He's
see
into having conversations about making good choices.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
He's scared of Tracy.
Good choices are going to Mulligan's and enjoying steak fingers, going to Mulligan's and hitting golf balls, going to Mulligan's and hanging out with friends. Those are good choices. What are not good choices are having to take your boots off and eating with a food tray, TV tray, and leaving it by the couch. So the PSA is, don't do those things.
Don't do it.
So when we come back, we're going to have knowing is half the battle. We'll be back right after this.
He does not like the marriage one. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
All right, we'll do knowing is half the battle, and
then we will skedaddle. Oh my gosh.
That made it right.
Yep, that was funny. Hodge was like, I ain't touching this one. So whenever I asked this, we talked about this question last night at the house, Ethan goes, oh, that's easy. He was like, intimacy. That's what you drowned him from. And I was like, no, not from, for. So he was like, obviously you know the word I'm thinking that I'm not going to say, but he was like, that's what all husbands in life would drown each other from. And it just cracked me
that would
up.
only work one way.
Yeah, I just laughed. I was like, you're 17 and you already know how this works.
Making the bed made me think of a time. I don't even remember what we were arguing about, but Dan and I were like in some sort of disagreement over something about chores at the house or something. So I decided I was only going to make my side of the bed. So I pulled like half of the
You petty Betty.
and put my pillows on there and left hers. It's like, that'll prove a point.
Yeah, you're like, ha. That's hilarious. No, but that's why it's funny because anybody married, we all have these little things that we do. And like I said, mine was a water bottle for years. Like it probably went on for years. Like I never thought about it. I would just leave it there in the by my recliner, and then I'm gonna drink it the next morning or whatever. Like I'm eventually gonna finish it and then throw it away. And I guess it bothered him, so he would put it in the fridge or whatever.
Yeah.
So now that I don't do that anymore, now here comes the TV train. So it's just been really funny.
I picture y'all all sitting in the living room eating supper. I really cannot stand eating on the couch.
Yeah.
Like my kids do it, and I told them no food in the living room, which obviously is because like the other day I was like,
Collins uses the TV train.
I dropped something, like, and I think it was a lid to
into the abyss.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the
Fell
couch.
in there. There's a lid to a water bottle. Fell in there, and I was like, trying to dig in there, and I was like, oh my god. There's like animals living in there. There's like
They're waiting on your crumbs.
Yeah, goldfish. And,
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh man, that's disgusting. So then I had to get the vacuum.
Yeah, no.
Vacuum has a little tool for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, my couch looks like this, and I don't allow eating in the living room.
I know. No, it's gross. Yeah. But yeah, just those little bitty petty things that.
We drink Dr. Peppers.
Not very often.
I just wondered, because Molly likes them, but she doesn't like.
Pretty rare. Like if we go like.
I've gotten where I don't like as many.
Yeah, we just don't drink a lot of soda. Like we'll keep some minis in our fridge, but we just don't have a lot of soda.
I bought some minis recently because I was like, that's good because the kids don't need a whole one.
Right.
Sometimes they'll use like a mixed drink, and I don't need a whole like.
Same.
And so
They're expensive though.
When I went to buy them again, I didn't think about it. First time I just saw them. I was pushing the cart. I was like, oh, that was a good idea.
Yes.
I thought I was going to put a online order in. They cost more per can than the 12
big ones. Yes.
So I was like, I'm just going to buy a big one and pour it out.
It's so stupid, but
Like,
it sucks.
so
Yeah, it's
I'll
like,
drink half of it and pour the rest of it out because it's cheaper.
Yep. I know, which is stupid.
Welcome back to the Hodge Pack, sports life and everything in between as we kick off and get rolling in our 8 o'clock hour with fake news that Clay does not leave a TV tray by the couch.
Wrong.
As you hear the new song right here, this is from Midnight River Choir. Prince of Peace just released it not long ago. You can check it out on Spotify. The reason I bring that up is this coming Thursday, July 20th, Potosi Live will be having a headliner release party for the Potosi Fest that's coming up in September 21st to the 23rd. They're excited about their headliners. They've been holding it in and getting to
holding it in like Missy in a road trip.
Yes, with the burrito.
Like you have to. Don't do that to your family.
No, I think you should.
No, do not.
It's nothing else. I think Clay with the fake news should happen tonight.
No.
Anyway, so the release party next Thursday, July 20th. Specials: $3 beers, half off appetizers, $5 live burritos, free concert featuring this band, Midnight River Choir. Great stuff. New release, Princess of Peace. So get out to Potosi Live next Thursday as they release their headliners for their big Potosi Fest, September 21st through the 23rd. So check that out next week, next Thursday. So now it is time for
All right, I kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit, and because what I was going to talk about today, because we have a road trip coming up, and I didn't even realize that you have a road trip today. Well, I guess I realized that because you said you're leaving early yesterday on the text, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. But now it's even better because
it could have been a closing.
Yeah. So anyway, I was thinking, this is how this conversation came up. My family is going on a vacation here in a couple of weeks, week and a half, whatever.
With you?
I do have to go. I've asked to be relieved of obligation. He said, I'll save some money, I'll stay home, but I was told I have to go. Which is fine. I enjoy it. It's just I don't like driving in the car with other people. Which brings me to this point. This conversation because Molly and her cousin were riding in the vehicle with my boys, and Leanne was driving, and they were like, she needs to ride with us when we go on vacation because the whole family's going. And my wife said, no, that's not going to happen. Your dad will not let that happen because they're loud, and it's just goofiness and just she's
Little
right.
stuff,
She's
yeah.
right. I would not like it at all. So that made me start thinking about like what is the proper etiquette for a road trip. Now, obviously, if you have to take your kids somewhere, they don't care about etiquette, and they'll act however they want.
So when you say
and-
proper road trip etiquette, I guess it doesn't matter to an extent on how long that road trip's going to be.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're going 45 minutes away, it's a little different than if you're going to Colorado or Port Aransas, where it's
like
like
5 or 6 hours.
where you're
Well, I
like
think
you're
even
like
you
in it for the
from-
long haul, where you have to stop for meals on the way and
Like from
multiple,
here-
multiple gas breaks and
From
things.
here, when you think of road trip, obviously there's the Beachport A, Rio Dosa are probably like in Colorado the 3 normal long
Yeah,
ones.
that's just
The other normal ones that people do for like quicker getaways is Arlington.
yeah,
It
Metroplex,
is
yeah,
Riverwalk. Okay, so roll with it.
So let's say anything like you're going to draw the concentric circle. If you're going as far away as say Lubbock, the Metroplex, and farther. All right, so something that's probably going to require maybe a pee break along the way, but so you're going to be in the car for a while. I believe that especially if you're going with a group of people, if you are going to sit shotgun, you automatically have certain obligations.
Okay.
I agree with
Okay?
that.
And one of them is to not go to sleep.
Well,
Well, Colin screwed
I
that
guess
one up for me last week.
I
She
guess
fell
I would.
asleep on
I
me.
guess I could ground Tracy. She does pretty good, but she does fall asleep all night.
See, I'm with Josh. I do not like that. Like, if I'm driving, I'm with you. Like, you're my co-pilot. We're in this together. Let's do it.
Well, and like, especially if you're talking about, you go on
Like
the really long road trip,
Yes.
like if you're going like
If I need you awake, I need you awake.
Yes,
if-
exactly.
like on a 12-hour trip to the mountains, like
Yes,
where it's
I
like
need you.
the co-pilot it's a key role. If you want to sleep, especially if you're on a group trip, like it's not just like you and your kids, but even if it is your kids, like if you want to go to sleep, you need to sit in the back because the person up front needs to help. I mean, because there are times like on a road trip that you've got to, I don't know, read what a road sign says up there while you're trying to navigate through traffic, and you need someone to help, like, oh, this is our exit, things like that, or just be there to talk to because you're very bored and you're getting tired yourself.
Can
So
I be the DJ as the
I think the
co-pilot?
co-pilot is allowed to be.
I am the DJ in my car.
Music is huge. I think
Oh,
a lot
huge.
of times you get when you start to get to that sleepy, I guess, stage. Mine is I got to have sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
Is keep a waker.
It
Keep a waker.
sounded like you said some word in like Hawaiian.
Dr. Pepper normally comes into play because I'm not a coffee person. But I agree with that. So the person in the right. Now, the other problem is, and again, when you travel with some folks, you almost need to know who you're traveling with and driving. So I'll give you an example. We come back from vacation a couple weeks ago. We beat our bags here. So we fortunately got from Costa Rica to Houston. So we knew our bags were in America. With flight delays, all those things. So from Houston to Dallas, we beat our bags. So we fill out the thing and then find out that our bag is on a plane from Houston to here, or the DFW. And so we get there, and so I'm going to go pick them up. Well, when you go to airports, they don't want you to stay there and occupy that spot. You got to keep them moving, people. Drop off, keep them moving. It ain't
You got to go
by
pay
y'all.
for parking.
Right. So Tracy gets in the car and I should have just said, stay there. If our bag's there, we'll be there. Long story short, in all that, you've got to know if somebody that's driving in a situation that's not normal for them, whether it's city or whatever, you cannot abandon them and you got to be patient with them. You know what I mean? You got to be patient with people if they're in a situation that's not normal. So how will y'all handle your road trip? Because what is it, Port A? 6?
I think, 5, 6, I don't know, ish hours. It's a jaunt. How will we handle it in terms of like?
Does Clay drive all the way?
Clay will drive the entire way. Usually, Every once in a while, I will drive, but he primarily is our driver.
Are y'all going in the same car just as your family, or
Yes.
is everybody in one car?
Our family in our car, their family in
Will
theirs.
you feel pressured to not fall asleep because of knowing it's happening?
I will feel the pressure that I cannot do that, and so I will make sure that I get rest on Sunday night so that I am in good spirits and.
Well, I'm talking about
not
today.
fall asleep.
You're about to get in the
Oh,
car.
I'm ready.
But
I'm
that's
ready.
that's where I really.
It's usually the way back for
I've
me.
been on a couple road trips. You know, that the Sunday side of the road trip weekend where everyone's kind of tired,
Yes.
had a long go at it. You know, it's and you're trekking back, and for whatever reason, for me, it's like depending on where you're coming from, they're like Bear or Cross Plains.
Yeah,
you know,
you
like
hit a
you're just like Coleman if you're coming from that
Yes.
direction. You're almost home, but you start doing the old nod. You know, like
Well, I've
you need
always
a little
said-
help. You know, like.
I've always said,
And everybody else in the car is asleep, and you're awake, and,
That does
and
suck.
everyone else
I
is
will
asleep.
tell you, I've always said
Don't do
the
that.
best sleep in America is that 2 seconds when you do this. I mean, that's like the
Before you hit a road sign.
yeah, that is the best amount of sleep when you have that little head nod boom, and then because it kind of wakes you up like an alarm clock. Oh, that could have been bad. And so basically, knowing half the battle is, hey, if you're riding shotgun, be awake.
Gotta be awake.
Evan
That's
Harris, be awake. That's
And
just,
now, on that note, I'm gonna go start my road trip. 'Cause
Have fun.
I know more.
Now you do know.
I
knowing
know
is
more.
half the
Stay
battle.
awake. Or
And so-
slap Collins around and make her stay awake.
There you go. Hey, when we come back, we'll start looking at Major League Baseball, the second half. We're in the second hour. Major League Baseball is hitting its second hour right after this. Sit down for a minute. Let's see. Do you get the MLB email rundown? Like the morning lineup thing?
Yeah.
Right, so I thought we'd look at, we'll talk Rangers All-Star game. If the playoffs started today, but the power rankings, did you get the one where it says power rankings holding steady, but top 5 better be where?
Yeah.
I thought that would be good. You good with that?
I didn't read it. I saw that headline.
I did too. I saw the headline and it made me think of it. Yeah.
I meant to read it yesterday, but I didn't want to get around to it.
but they give it some.
Oh, Rich will do it.
Well, welcome back to the Hodge Pack, sports, life, and everything in between, right here on 106.9, the Country Giant. We are rolling along. Misty's heading out, knowing it's half the battle. Hopefully she is paying attention this week and having a good time as summer's happening and all those things. A couple of headline reminders. Don't forget, early on, our Lawrence Hall headline report, again, Pat Fitzgerald has been fired at Northwestern. They've also fired yesterday their baseball coach, Jim Foster, for bullying allegations. And so a lot of issues and drama happening at Northwestern. The Scottish Open is happening. Now new leader, Terrell Hatton, along with Tom Kim at 9 under, along with Han at 9 under, as well as everybody's getting ready for next week's British Open. So a lot of stuff there. Be looking forward to watching and following that next week. Josh, of course, Wimbledon's going on. There's still a lot of things going. But the big thing that's happening is Major League Baseball, and we are, this past week was Home Run Derby, All-Star Weekend, All-Star break, if you will, for those that had one. A lot of folks did, but a lot of Rangers were in Seattle. So, Josh, y'all had mentioned, I was reading our text chain. Thoughts on Home Run Derby and thoughts on All-Star break, All-Star game, and then we'll transition into the rest of the season.
I have two thoughts on the Home Run Derby. One is they really got to stop putting those kids out there. It was only a matter of time before someone got smoked. Did you see that?
I was eating dinner Monday night watching it, and that was my exact first thought was somebody's going to get taken out.
There needs to be some level of like competency, to be out there. Like Major League Baseball players, Mariano Rivera famously got hit with the line drive during batting practice and had to miss a couple games. Because that's always what the pitchers and the rest of the players shag the balls during batting practice. What those kids were out there doing. That kid tried to make a play on the ball and whiffed, but his face did not whiff. I mean, looked rough.
So there was a kid that got hit. I did not see that.
Yeah, there.
The ultimate game of 500 is happening.
Well, that's exactly what's happening. And it's as you know, in the 500, someone tries to get the ball, doesn't quite get it, then the next person behind them takes it in the nose. Like you've seen that with the football, but this was kind of the equivalent with the baseball. All those kids are out there. They look to be, early teens. They're not like high school players out there. I don't know how they recruit them or what you have to do to get out there, but this kid. Those balls are coming in, like those guys were hitting those balls, 100 to 110 off the bat. Now they're not going that fast by the time they get to the outfield, but line drive into left field, when this kid runs over, puts his glove up to make a catch, completely misses the glove, and just smoked him in the face. And the best part about it, being, I hope he's okay. I mean, I have not heard any news on it. I hope he's okay. But the video, the reaction to the kid that was also running for the ball, that was it kind of where you could the hand over the mouth, like, ooh,
yeah.
But
it was. I thought it was good. Vladimir Guerrero.
Sorry, I went way off.
Vladimir Guerrero wins the Home Run Derby, first time ever. Father-son win it. He was. I will say, it's interesting to see how tired they get. When they called their little timeout, some of them called the timeout because they were tired. Some of them wanted to call a timeout like it was a basketball game. I'm not getting anywhere near here. Let's make an adjustment. Yeah. But Vladimir Guerrero Garcia didn't have a great. I'm assuming because
Tony Beasley didn't have a great day, and that is the takeaway that I saw in watching the Home Run Derby. Who your pitcher is just about as important as how all those guys can drop bombs. And can do so fairly consistently. Some of the pitchers are able to locate and put it in the same place just over and over and over and over. And those guys get in a rhythm and start hitting balls out.
And there was a stretch where Vladimir Guerrero's person, and honestly, it was the equivalent of once he found it, it was almost right, it was on repeat.
You could just watch it, and it was like the same little he do the same little wind up and there, and he just that was a big reason why when you look at those players that did well, and unfortunately, I guess for the first time ever, there's been people that have said there's a curse to the home run derby because people get out of sync trying to hit the ball out. I don't know that I believe that because most of those guys are trying to put on a batting practice show, routinely at the stadiums and hit balls as far as they can and things like that. But Luis Robert Jr. strained his calf, so he's going to miss games.
And people will look at that and probably encourage folks to move away from it and to not do those things. But All-Star game nationally wins the All-Star game. Again, I got to watch a little bit of it, not a lot, because I had an event.
And the Rangers had 6 players on the field at the same time. Did you hear this? 6 players on the field at the same time. That's only the 3rd time that one team has had 6 All-Stars on the field at the All-Star game. We'll see how it plays out because there's been some. All 6 of them signed a ball that Nathan Eovaldi pitched in the game. Signed the baseball that's going to the Hall of Fame. So they'll be represented there because it's a momentous occasion. The other 2 teams that had 6 on the field at the same time was one of the Yankees teams back in the 30s, and then I can't remember the other, but it was another one. Maybe the Reds or the Giants in the 50s or the Reds in the 70s. I can't remember. I read this and now I can't remember what it was. But we're talking like, it's
a rarity.
It's very rare, and it's like legendary Hall of Fame people and those other ones. And I'm not saying that that's the case for the Rangers, but to have 6 guys on the field at the same time means you got something going right.
And here's the deal: when you start looking at that, it reminds you of the pressure that when a high school coach, no matter the sport, a college coach, no matter the sport, if you're coaching, take Georgia and Alabama, if you're coaching 12 or 6 to 12, whatever that number is, first round draft picks on your team, and you're not winning championships and you're not doing things that you would assume having that many first round draft picks in the NFL or that many all district players or all state players on your team, and they start saying, well, why are we not making the playoffs? Why are we not making runs? Then you start questioning some things. And so that's when you start talking about pressure and when you start talking about those, yes, there is excitement. And so there is that. And so that's why you start looking at that and you're like, okay. And I talked to I talked to a friend of mine this week, and they were blaming it on coaching, on some of the last games and whether it's the pitching and whether these decisions. They're down south where Sean Salisbury's show. It's a big Houston. They talk about Houston all the time. And they've got a saying, no matter what happens, it's Dusty's fault. Mm-hmm. And they've kind of started looking at that. Now that pressure of a World Series manager, which is Bruce Bochy, start seeing. You've got the guys now. There's no more excuse. But we do know as Rangers fans, we are still missing a few things that need to be in the grocery, in the cupboard, if you will, if we're going to cook this meal that lasts into late October.
And that's a very good segue to what I was going to talk about next. Is like the offense has struggled recently, and they have come back to earth. Their lead has shrunk to 2 games in the West, so they're basically on the odds. Odds makers have them at basically with the Astros as to who's going to win the division. So the Rangers really need to come out of this All-Star break. They play the formerly known as Indians this weekend in Arlington. So
who's battling with Minnesota to try to find a way to get in.
They're playing well lately, and they're a good pitching team and all of that. So it's not going to be easy coming out of the break because the Dodgers are coming up after that. So it's kind of a telling part of the schedule. But the Rangers need to hit like they did more at the first of the year. And if they can just meet in the middle, they've kind of had a peak and a valley. If they can just come up and kind of plateau a little bit above that valley, then they should be able to hold off the Astros and make the playoffs. So
well, and my thought is, I was listening to Emily Jones. I was listening to her. She was on a radio show this past week, and they were asking her, what's your thoughts on this All-Star break? And my thought is, she said it's such a grind for 162 games, and some of this time, some of these schedules that they have is okay. We're going to play here like against Houston. We're going to play on Monday, but then we're going to leave, fly out on the third, and play the afternoon day game in Boston. So in all that, they were just asking her, how the guys seem to take it, and even her getting the break off because she's like, I do 82 games a year, but she made a good point. To me, the break hopefully got to be a break for everybody on the Rangers, even the guys playing in the All-Star game. It was different. It was like I was still at work, but we were having a family picnic, or the co-op. We were having the company picnic, or we were doing this. Something was different, and so I'm hoping that vacation, like Missy's having vacation, you're going to have when you go to even sometimes a conference, that rejuvenation that comes from those breaks. We see that tonight. We see that matter where, okay, we thought about it. Bruce Bochy probably needed the time off because you think about it. He's not been at the office for a few years now, and now I'm back working again. And I get a bit of a break, and I'm glad that it's Monday to all the way from Thursday. Now you go back on Friday.
They used to go back on Thursday, and they gave that extra day, which I do like. And
so, anyway, I do think it's a good thing. When we come, the other thing we want to make a note about, we're going to keep going. We're going to look at, since we're at the halfway point, it's a little bit over the halfway point, but we are starting that second half post All-Star break. All those people that worry about the Rangers, we're going to talk and see who, if we were today, who's making the playoffs, who is making the run, who do we need to be watching out for. Josh and I will talk about that. We'll keep the baseball going right after this. Back on. I just hit the mic button like I was on the keyboards going to town on Journey. Don't stop believing. Don't stop believing in the Rangers as we're back with a Hodge Pack Sports Life and everything in between. Continuing our Texas Ranger and Major League Baseball report as we start looking at the Rangers. One of the things as Ranger fans that we've got to just don't stop believing in what we have. There's a reason we're still number one or number two in American League right now. First place at the moment. We got it. We stayed in first place leading into the All-Star break. And tonight, that second part of the season starts. And so, Josh, we wanted to look at if the playoffs started today. First of all, big announcement that came along with the All-Star game is that in 2024, it's going to be down the road in Arlington. And so that's kind of exciting. Be curious to know what I was talking to a buddy last night.
I want to go to the home run derby.
The home run. If my weekend would be home run derby, hang out at Texas Live on Tuesday during the game. I mean, the game would be now. Real quick, same buddy said he used to love the All-Star game, and he's a little bit older now, and he said he loved the introductions back in the day. Mm-hmm. Not so much today. And the other thing he wants to see is go back to the regular uniforms, get away from the
stupid things
they were absolutely hideous.
Whoever drew those logos, just like the N, a green N on a like dark helmet, I don't know if it was blue or black, for the National League, was just like, what is that? Yeah, I mean, and they're like muted camouflage-ish looking. I mean, I don't know. They weren't really camouflage, but I think it was Waves for Seattle. I mean, I don't know. They were awful.
Right.
I mean, it was just an obvious cheap play to try to sell some extra jerseys, but I don't know who was running out clamoring to get their ugly favorite player's jersey. I mean, I guess there are people out there.
Come back. If you want to do a hat
that's
do the hat that's separated, but just wear your jersey. That way you can sign that jersey, All-Star Jersey 1, put it somewhere, autograph it, send it. It makes some money off it for charity. So anyway, congratulations, Arlington. All-Star game will be next year in.
And I just want to add to your point, like of loving the All-Star game. I do watch a little bit of it. I was excited to see the Rangers in it this time, but watching my kids watch it, and because we're pretty rabid baseball fans at our place. So Molly and Luke and Barrett really like it. They know more about players than like most adults. Leanne's completely lost in conversations. It's okay.
Right.
But
that's okay.
Their excitement as the game started and then it goes through and then like the stars come to bat, like, oh, Freddie Freeman, and Mookie Betts and all those guys as we watch the top of the first, as those guys came to hit, and my kids being excited about those stars being out there, and that reminded me of having that same reaction when I was a kid, and seeing those guys that all in one place, all those you see Ken Griffey Jr. and Jose Canseco, and just the excitement that you had of seeing those stars. And as an adult, I guess you grow out of that. So I get it that it doesn't move the needle for as a baseball fan. If you are older, but it is fun to see those guys and some of the
and they play baseball, which is the difference in all the other ones. But so as we start moving forward, that means now this don't stop believing in that we have this season that's got to carry on, and now you really start wondering, because like in the NFL, nobody really pays a whole lot of attention to the playoffs until you get to about after Thanksgiving, you start and really I guess maybe December. All right, what are we going to see in the next few weeks? Who are the teams that we should be looking for? Well, we probably can do that later, but now I want to look. So, Josh, if it were to end the day, if everything was over and it wasn't the All-Star game, but we were now sitting in September, early October, and the playoffs were to start, it would be American League would be the Rangers and the Rays would have the first, the 2 byes. The wild card series would be the Astros and the Guardians, Blue Jays and Orioles, which I'm telling you, when you've got 3 teams out of 5 that are in the playoffs, that AL East is unbelievable and it's crazy. And then in the National League, you would have the Braves and the Dodgers, Giants, Reds, Diamondbacks, and Marlins. And I don't know about you, Josh, but the National League has teams that are shocking me more than in the American League. When you've got the Reds, who have been notoriously for the last couple of years awful, but now are on this amazing run, and then you look at the D-backs, and again, you look at the NL West, where you've got the Dodgers, Giants, and D-backs that have kind of made this push. And the fact that the Padres aren't in, the fact that the Padres who spent this money and done all these things, that to me is pretty interesting as well.
On the Mets too, the highest payroll in baseball history, and they're a long ways looking out. And that is all that's exciting to have the Rangers in that place. And there's the down has been like we kind of talked about. They haven't been playing as well lately, so we really need to come out of the break and do it strong. But what makes a big deal with baseball at the All-Star break, and why scoreboard watching and looking at those standings matters a whole lot now versus in other sports, is the trade deadline in baseball is a big deal. I mean, it's where you've played the first half of the season out of the All-Star break. Now you've evaluated what you have and what you need to try to make the push. And other teams, on the flip side of that, are all right. Are you going to be real and say, like the Cardinals, for example, have not played well? It was unexpectedly bad. They've recently come out, and their GM has hinted to the fact that they're going to try to, flip some pieces, and so it's basically you're waving the white flag for this year, And so, looking at those scoreboards, now looking at those standings, that what matters so much in baseball from now till the end of this month, the trade deadline is August 1st this year. There's going to be a lot of people moving around. Role players, there maybe a few stars, but your team is looking at what can make the difference. And obviously, the Rangers already got Aroldis Chapman, not Adolis. That's Adolis Garcia. Combine the two. Because they need bullpen help. They're still going to be looking for more. So what teams are going to be selling bullpen help? So teams deciding we're not winning this year. We need to try to get some prospects to be better in the future. And that's what makes the All-Star break is so meaningful for that, because the trade season starts in earnest now.
Well, and I think the other thing is you talked about trade deadlines. I think probably the trade deadlines that matter, if you were to rank the professional organizations in the leagues, I would say it's MLB, NBA, and NFL. Because you see, and we saw that this year, the Lakers made some trades and put themselves in the Western Conference Finals. Major League Baseball, I remember the Fred McGriff trade, and now it made the Braves who they were.
Right.
David Cone going to the Yankees, Roger Clemens, and those kind of trades that take place. Roger Clemens wasn't at a trade deadline, but a lot of those that happen at a trade deadline that do matter. Now, the other problem is because of so many wild card spots,
there's fewer sellers.
There's people that feel like I still have a chance, that I need to go get that change so we can get into the playoffs, because the expectations for somebody like the Marlins, let's face it, it's not to win it all. But if they get into the playoffs, even though they've won 2 World Series, if they get into the playoffs, their expectations are through the roof. The Reds, they're the same spot.
Well, the Reds for sure are in that like making the playoffs would be a huge boon for them. And the Diamondbacks, I do believe as well. And the Rangers, I mean, to be perfectly honest, the Rangers are the big story on the American League side that kind of rivals those two stories. But I think this is what it's interesting to me to look at this, because as a fan, you're never happy when your team has declared, season over, we're playing for next year. Some teams are bad enough that makes it pretty easy. You've already officially not maybe given up, but the Rangers the past few years, by the All-Star break, you knew nothing was happening. So it was like you're watching player development and things like that. But I think what is so fascinating to me is the job of a front office, a GM and owner, the manager being part of these conversations.
Oh, it's a chess match.
What is our ceiling this year? What is it worth trading to do? Do we go for it this year like the Reds? You're exciting, you're young, you're going in the right direction, maybe ahead of schedule. People didn't think they knew that like Ellie De La Cruz was coming, but they didn't know he was going to come on and just like set the world on fire. So how do you move forward with that? Do you trade in some future for this year? You have to make it realistic.
Well,
how realistic are
you can't LA Rams you.
Right.
Because do you do everything for one championship and be good and you run and everybody loves you for a window? Because even in that window, you're going to eventually close. The Mavs won a world championship, but deep down, it's been a long time.
Right.
The Cowboys won 3 championships with the Herschel Walker trade, but now we're at a position to say, all right, we need another one.
Right.
And so I do believe that the trade deadline is huge. I do think that.
But how hard are you going to go in? Do you look, if you're one of those barely squeaking into the playoff teams, or maybe you're a little bit under and you could squeak in?
And do you go first?
Right.
In that, do you wait and say, okay, all right, well, the Astros did X, so we got to do something. Or if nobody really does anything, can we be good enough and wait it out with where we're at and be good enough?
Well, right, and you got to decide. Well, if I'm good enough to squeak into the playoffs as a wild card, how realistic is our chances of winning that first series? How realistic are our chances of going deeper? And what are those little steps worth? I mean, it's a crazy. Just you got to be real with yourself. You can't mortgage the entire future for one playoff win and then go back home. But it might be worth a little bit of mortgage in the future to make sure you get to that playoff. It's the thought processes intrigue me, and that's why.
I thought that would be something. If somebody asked me, what do I want to do? If I could go back and change some things, and I know to be an agent, a sports agent, you've got to have some law background and all that, like our buddies Brent and Grant. Hey, go be a sports agent. I think it'd be fun a day walk around. What is it like to make those decisions? And when you have a tough decision, all right, Elvis, we're going to trade you because we're going to about to get this, or whatever that looks like. So when we come back, we're going to end it with picking our people. When we get to eat up some baseball, it's back tonight. The Rangers are back home playing the Guardians. Who do we have? Do we agree with our MLB lineup, or will we change it up? Who makes the playoffs? We'll tell you that right after this.
As your touchstone energy cooperative, it's not just a
Good stuff. Let's play that in the background. A little background music.
Yeah.
And it's just low enough where you can hear it.
That means value that goes far beyond energy. It's value.
Does YouTube pick up the board at all? Drops in the
Welcome back to the Hodge Pack, sports life and everything in between. Want to remind you, do not forget Potosi Live next Thursday, July 20th. Their headliner reveal party, Midnight River Choir will be playing. It's a free concert. Doesn't cost you anything to get in. Just come out there to Potosi Live, out there on 1750 for they've got great deals on beverages, half price appetizers, $5 live Ritas, live Ritas,
La, 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 la.
$3 beers. So go hang out, Potosi Live, and hear their great lineup. I was ate lunch there yesterday. They're excited. They can't wait for everybody to know who's coming in September. The dates of the fest is September 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And so next
Time of the year.
Yeah.
It can be hot, but it could be nice.
Could be really nice. So September 21st, 22nd, 23rd. But the reveal party doesn't cost you anything next Thursday, Potosi Live. Be sure you're there for that. So we wanted to end this thing real quick about who do you think. All right, so we mentioned who's in those playoffs. Who do you think get in? I know there's a lot now since everybody gets in. Not quite everybody. How much do you think that changes, Josh? And who do you see in the World Series?
Oh, well, I think the American League West, obviously the homer in me is all about the Rangers winning the division, and I feel like they have the ability to. I don't think that's just being a pure homer, but I think it's kind of too close to call. But I do think the Rangers and the Astros will both make the playoffs. I just don't know which.
Do you think they're going to jockey each other?
I think there's a solid chance the Astros pass the Rangers, and the Rangers could have it in them to come back. Or, they only have a 2-game lead, so that could be a bad weekend for one and a good weekend for the other. That either flip flops the Rangers and the Astros, or puts the Rangers several games up. So there's. But I do think both the Rangers and the Astros make the playoffs. It could go down to the wire to see which is the wild card and which is the division winner. The Rays have established a pretty solid lead over there. The Orioles are playing well, so I do think those two.
Well, the Orioles have cut their lead to 2.
Yes,
the Rays lead to 2.
Well, and that's what we haven't talked about, baseball in general as much as just Ranger specific, obviously. But the Rangers, we've kind of been down on them, and they haven't played well. But the Rays have been going through a very similar stretch. I do think the Rays, because of their pitching and the Orioles' lack of pitching, will maintain their lead. But I do think the Orioles will make the playoffs. The Central, Minnesota or Cleveland, there'll be one of the two of them. They've both had like sputters and goes, throughout the season so far. So that's going to be a race that I feel like will be close. I think Cleveland probably edges it out, and so that will kind of stay chalk on that one.
So you think Cleveland? I think managerial-wise, I think that veteranness is going to matter.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the Rays. It is neat to see the Orioles good. I don't know why,
but the Orioles they have a lot going on, and their bullpen is outstanding, but their starting pitching is their weak part.
Well, and I started looking at that, and I was thinking about that at the break. Was you've got some people that are in positions that aren't used to it.
Right.
The Rays are winning. Figure out a way. They're used to being competitive. The Rangers now have people on their team that have been in used to winning situations. And so I wonder, and I mentioned Francona, if Bochy is the manager there for the Rangers, I start looking at them that making sense. But like you start going into the National League, Braves, they're kind of used to that.
Yeah, and the Braves are sailing away.
And so, and you got the Marlins coming out of nowhere. I mean, they're 53-39. But the one that I go back to the Reds on, can they stay hot? They've made this run of being pretty good. It looks like it's going to be between them and Milwaukee, and then of course the loaded West.
Yeah, and I think that last wild card spot in the American League, I think the Blue Jays are in there right now, but Seattle's kind of making a push of pitching, and if and I don't want to cheer for them, but I do think that they could move in the right direction. And the Yankees, they've been hanging around without Aaron Judge, and I don't know how long he's going to be gone. But if Judge comes back and they've got Rendon back on their pitching staff, so they have finally that kind of one A ace situation with Garrett Cole that they envisioned when they signed him. So I can see the Yankees making a push. I think that third wild card in the American League is going to be a run down to the wire, and the American League West will be a run down to the wire. And in the National League, the East is over.
Everybody's playing for a
The
wild
Dodgers,
card.
the
That's not
Dodgers
there.
finally came back and have done what they did. The Diamondbacks were a good story, but they've kind of faded. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Diamondbacks end up not making the playoffs. But they're going to be in the picture.
So who do you think, when it's all said and done, are representing? And I'm going to jot it down. Representing the National League and the American League in the World Series.
In the National League, I'm going to go with the Braves. I do think that there's a solid chance to see a Braves-Dodgers NLCS that could be just an exciting matchup. But I think the Braves, their offense, their pitching, they are the best team in baseball, and I have no second thought about saying they're the best team in baseball. The American League is harder for me to say because, for one, I'm very homer and want to say the Rangers.
And very other, and don't want to say the other.
Yeah, and I obviously do not want it to be the Astros. But I think that those are the two teams that are the best right now. With the one exception being the Rays' pitching is very good. Their offense was playing out of its mind for a while, but they don't have true star power on offense. Randy Rosarina obviously is pretty good, but I don't think he's that true, carry the team type. He's not Ronald Acuna Jr.
So you got Braves and who?
I'm gonna say the Rangers because I am a homer. But that is a hard. They got to get it together.
I'm going to cheer for the Rangers just to be different, and so we have something except for the Braves because I'm a lifelong Braves fan. I'm going to go the Braves. I'm going to go out of nowhere, and I'm going to pick the Orioles. Orioles, Braves would be a weird World Series, but that's who I'm going with. Hey, guys, we appreciate you joining us this morning. I want to encourage you, don't forget, you can head over to KLGD1069.com, listen to us and the station anywhere in the world. A couple of things I want to remind you. I've got JB coming in at 10 o'clock. A at 2, the Texas two-step. Greg is going to be interviewing, actually having Shane Porter, who's going to be playing tonight at Potosi Live. So great music. You can go check them out tonight. Hey, we appreciate you. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll be back next week with more Hodge Pack, sports life, and everything in between. And the Rangers tonight kick off the second half. We'll be back next week.
Baseball. That's all. 40 minutes. Which I love.